Hey, what's up everybody? It's TJ and Carrie with Muscle Growth Mindset. We're going to talk about something a little different. It's going to be really relative for me right now. All the bodybuilders out there that know peak week. You know, personally, I hate the term peak week. Like, it just annoys me for whatever reason. It's just the last week before the show. And they call it peak week, I guess, because that's when you're supposed to peak and look your best, right? So there's a ton of different ways of going about it. There's a lot of strategies. Everybody's always looking for that right peak week and all the tricks to do. And really, the best peak week is to not have any tricks.
Okay.
Like, you know, there's little adjustments you're going to make, but ideally you just get in shape early and you're ready to go and you kind of just roll into the show and don't make too many changes. So I'm going to get into kind of what I do and what I'm doing this week. It's, you know, we're videoing Wednesday. The show's this Saturday, so I'm kind of into my peak week a little bit and I'm changing some things.
And by the way, for those of you who are not stage bodybuilders and don't know a lot about it, you may have thought over the last few videos that TJ had an illness and was dying. Turns out that's actually not the case.
He's dieting.
Yeah, his face gets a lot more shrunken in, and you're like, oh God, is he okay?
Yeah. It's been 11 weeks, 11 and a half weeks, I guess. I've been dieting. I'm down about 33, 34 pounds. So it's been a ride. So I'm ready to eat on Saturday. So let's get into this peak week thing. So there's a lot of things that people talk about and people do, like carb depletion and carb loading and sodium manipulation and water manipulation.
Heard a lot about the water.
Diuretics. There's a lot of different factors you can throw, but the problem is the more factors you change, like there's a lot of room for error there. So a lot of times people will really push something or do something extreme in the last week, and it's to try to get that extra 2, 3, 4, 5% better, but they do it at the risk of making themselves 50% worse.
Okay.
So if you guys don't know, there's terms flat and full. So
You just keep going.
okay. We have some technical difficulties over here.
We're not good.
But yeah, flat and full. Flat is when your muscles are depleted of glycogen and they get, you know, all the glycogen is gone, so they get smaller, they get flatter.
Hold on, I've got to fix this technical difficulty. Give me 2 seconds.
All right, there we go. Hopefully that holds.
Yeah.
So you get flat. Your muscles actually get the I guess fibers aren't getting smaller, but you get depleted of glycogen, so your muscles look smaller. So you actually look softer. Your muscles aren't pressing out against the skin like when they're full, so you don't look as tight. So the goal is to be nice and full. You want to. That's where the carb loading comes in. That's
you want the skin as thin as possible, no fat on the body, muscle just exploding out of the
you
skin.
want those muscle bellies full and round. So how do you do that? A lot of people, they'll do a carb depletion. So they start maybe, you know, a week and a half out. They start, you know, really depleting their carbs. They go none or really, really low carbs, and then maybe the day before, 2 days before, 3 days before, they start adding more carbohydrates in, and that fills the muscles up, right?
Right, glycogen storage. I'm familiar with that.
And that's great, and basically how you want to work it. One of the factors, though, is typically when you're dieting, you've been in a depletion the whole time, right?
Right.
You've been in a caloric restriction. You're probably doing pretty low carbs anyway. Your muscles are probably already kind of flat. So a lot of times the depletion isn't necessary, or an extreme depletion isn't necessary. So you just want to typically just kind of be able to do that carb load the last couple of days. A lot of people have to worry about making weight. Luckily, I'm not worried about a weight class. I'm going to be a super heavy, so it's 225 and up. Whether I'm 225 or 300 pounds, it doesn't matter. So I don't have to stress about trying to make a weight class. When people do that and they push their water and push to deplete to make a weight class, then it's hard to have enough time to refill back up with glycogen, right? Because it takes a couple of days. You're looking at, you know, 48, 72 to more hours in order to really get yourself, you know, filled back out. So my approach, you know, I'm already in a pretty depleted state. I stay low carbs through the weekend before. Typically around Tuesday, which yesterday for me, I started adding a little more carbohydrates in. I had two cups of rice yesterday, one pre-workout, one post-workout. It was amazing. So, today I do a little more carbs, Tomorrow I'm going to do a little more carbs. So today will be about probably 180 carbs. Tomorrow 250, 300. And then I'll evaluate on Friday. Typically Friday I'll push quite a bit. I may do anywhere from 500-600 grams of carbs up to 1,000 if I need it.
So how does this work with the water? From what I hear, you have to load water and then deplete water.
Yeah.
And how do you get carbs in when you're trying to downregulate water?
Yeah, that's another huge factor. Because water and sodium both can, make you flat as well. If you cut your sodium, if you cut your water too much, I mean, how do you transport glycogen? Glycogen needs to attach to water.
Right.
So if you cut your water out completely, which a lot of people do, and you're eating all these carbohydrates, you can't get that glycogen to your muscle. So I think a big mistake people make is they cut out their water completely. You do need to cut it some. You need to get that dry look. And in order to do that, you said the water loading. Yes and no. I mean, typically you're going to be drinking a lot of water. I drink a good amount on a regular basis. I call it water loading, but I just try to make sure I'm drinking a consistent, good amount, about 2 gallons a day. And I measure it and make sure for, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm consistently drinking that much water. That way when you manipulate things, I know I can pull back to, I'm doing 2 gallons. If I cut back to 150 ounces, that should dehydrate you, right? Your body is, taking in so much water, you start taking in less, so your body dehydrates a little bit. Or I cut back to 100 ounces, whatever. What I'll do, I do the same amount. I've been doing about 2 gallons a day. I'm going to do that through tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, I'm going to do that tomorrow. Friday, it'll kind of depend on what I look like Friday morning, but I'll either drink 100 ounces or so by noon, and then I'll just have water with meals.
Okay.
Like I said, you have to have that water to move the glycogen. So maybe 4 or 6 ounces with each meal. If I feel like I need to pull a little harder, I can start that earlier. I can do, maybe wake up in the morning, feel like I need to really pull some water off, I can just do water with meals all day on Friday. There's a point where you typically do cut water completely out. What I'm going to do, I'm doing my carb load starting now, tapering up, carbs through Friday. Friday night, I'll have a cutoff point of carbs. I'll eat carbs till pretty close to bed. And then Saturday, I don't do a lot of carbs. A lot of people keep eating carbs. They'll eat candy backstage and all this stuff. By then, I've been doing 4 days of carbohydrates. I'm hoping I'm pretty full.
Yeah.
Right? And Friday night, I'm going to cut my water. So Saturday, I'm not going to drink until after prejudging. So it's going to be hard if I do drink a bunch of carbohydrates to really get full anyway. Because
no water.
No water. It's not going to deliver the glycogen. So I do increase fats. So I'll have a higher fat breakfast and then sodium as well. I'll actually pull sodium down a little bit on Friday. I'll reduce it about half my normal intake. For most of the day, I'll probably cut it out about the time I cut my water. So whenever that is, when I'm doing it with meals, I'll cut my sodium. So I won't add any extra salt to anything. And then I reintroduce it. I don't sodium load, but I just reintroduce it to what my normal amount would be. So, at some point Friday night.
What does the sodium do?
Sodium's going to help. You need that sodium for, once again, a delivery
Fullness.
mechanism to the muscles. Like you can't get, sodium and water go together, right?
Right.
And you need, what are your muscles made of? A majority of them is water, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have,
75% water.
you can take sodium out, and what's that going to do? It's going to pull water, right? You're already pulling water. So if you cut your sodium completely, it's going to be flat, and you don't add sodium back in, it's going to be really hard to get those, the nutrients you need to get back into your muscles to get full.
Because your food is going to have some incidental water in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially depending on what foods you have, but yeah, there's going to be some water. Like if you do oatmeal, which some people do dry oats. If you're doing rice, there's going to be some water in that. Even sweet potatoes has some water in it. So kind of depends on what you're eating. But yeah, and then like I said, I'll be doing 4 to 6 ounces of water with each meal. So basically, I start my carb up Tuesday. It's progressive, 100 grams, 200 grams, 350, 400 grams, and then bam, quite a bit on Friday. Water, I keep high, 2 gallons up through Thursday. Depending on how I'm looking, Friday I'll cut water, just drink 4 to 6 ounces of meals. I keep sodium normal all week. Cut sodium Friday, just plain chicken, having no seasoning, and whatever my carb source is, no seasoning. And then do that for the majority of the day. Friday, probably after check-ins or weigh-ins, maybe my last meal, start adding sodium back in.
Okay.
Water's cut out completely before bed on Friday. No water Saturday. High-fat meal Saturday morning. High sodium meal on Saturday morning. I'm thinking this time, this is just from an experiment I did a couple weekends ago. I had a ham and cheese omelet. Man, it was so good too. Ham and cheese omelet, and I'll have some bacon. It's real high sodium. That's probably what my breakfast will be before the show. And then depending, if I am really flat and I need some quick carbs, I can always add that back in.
Okay.
I will drink a little water when I'm pumping up backstage. It's not, you're already going to be kind of in a dehydrated state, so sipping on some water is not going to hurt you. It's only going to help, especially when you start pumping, right?
Right.
You start pumping, glycogen's going to the muscles. A little bit of water, that's only going to move into your muscles.
Okay.
So, what do you think? What's your questions there? There's a basic idea of what my approach is going to be.
So when you're assigning to clients these programs, do you wait for cues from their body or from what they tell you?
Yes, both.
Okay.
Both. I need input, honest input from my clients. That helps.
Right.
Whether they feel they're flat or full or bloated or whatever. Bloated, I'll listen to, but I don't let them decide if they're flat or not.
Give me a picture. Show me a
usually
picture.
have pictures every morning, the week of the show, and keep a close eye on them. We usually do weekly or bi-weekly progress pictures through a prep, and then, but by showtime, that peak week, I want pictures every day to see kind of how you're progressing, and especially once we start manipulating carbs. So add a little carbs, what happens? Are they a little fuller, or are they not any more full? Then add a little more carbohydrates, see what happens. And if you're in a depleted state, it's really cool. This is my favorite part of a prep is these last 4 or 5 days because you can see changes. Like yesterday, whenever I had my rice post-workout, I was flat, my muscles were depleted, and I had the rice and just veins started coming out. Everything looked awesome, and then a little bit later it goes away because that glycogen, it's depleted again. So you'll see in those last couple of days, especially Thursday, Friday, Saturday, almost every meal, your muscles swell a little more. They get tighter on the skin. Another thing I like to do when I'm carbing up, you got to get that glycogen to your muscles, right? You got to move. So I'll keep a band in my hotel room, and I eat a meal, and I'll either pose, try to flex, and try to get that glycogen to the muscles, or I'll do like a little pump workout.
Okay.
You don't want to do any muscle damage. You don't want to tear any muscle down, but
You just want the blood flowing, the muscle full of blood, so the blood transports the glycogen in there
Right,
with the
right.
water.
So
Okay.
you eat, and then 15, 20 minutes later, you start to pump up a little bit, and you should feel those muscles starting to get pumped and swell. If you're not getting a pump, either you don't have enough carbohydrates or probably don't have enough water. Another big thing is the diuretic thing. Like diuretics are a dangerous game, and there's health risks if you go extreme, but just on your physique, it's going to pull water. You don't necessarily know where it's pulling that water from. If you had a special diuretic that could just pull subcutaneous water, that'd be great. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It just pulls water. You just pee out fluids. You don't know where you're taking it from. Maybe you're taking it from these muscles, these muscles. So you want to, there's times when people are a little watery. We could do like a half of a Diazide or some type of diuretic the night before to dry them out, but you have to be really careful of that because too much of that, you're going to end up looking worse. I've known a lot of people, myself included, over diuretic. You think more is better. I'm going to be dry. Well, dry is good, but flat, it's no better.
So it's a very careful balance, and you've got to take all the cues of whether it's your client or you, what your body's doing, how your muscles look and feel, how your water's being retained.
Yeah, and usually like Friday, I'll have my clients. I'll look at them several times. I'll either check in with them in person or have them send me pictures the morning of, and then I'm like, okay, send me pictures after meal 3, send me pictures after meal 5, and you want to see what's happening. You've restricted water. Are they flattening out? You're increasing carbs. Is it enough carbs to fill them out? If they're not filling out, then you either need more food or more water. That's one thing a lot of people don't do is they pull that water and then they're just set like you can't have water. Water is not a bad thing.
Right.
Like you definitely want to restrict it. You want to dehydrate a little bit, but you can over dehydrate. Another factor, I was talking about pumping up with the bands, is workouts the week of, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they train real hard, and try to you do that last little bit of it. Anything I can do to look good on stage on Saturday. Well, you don't want muscle damage. The last week is a recovery week.
Yeah.
I think you got to let your muscles repair, because whenever you tissue damage, you break muscles down, you're going to retain water. They're going to need to repair themselves, and you tear down that muscle. Yeah. So you want to, I taper down my cardio. Like today, I'm going to do 20 minutes real low intensity cardio. I'll probably just cruise on the elliptical or a light walk. I'll do an upper body pump, like all upper body, like 5-6 sets per body part. Just get some blood in there. Try to put the carbs I'm eating today to work a little bit. Get a pump.
Not heavyweight, lightweight.
Yeah. Just getting some blood flow. Just kind of like warm-up sets. My whole workout with 20 minutes of cardio in my upper body circuit's probably going to be 45 minutes to an hour max.
Okay.
And I'll do that again tomorrow, really light. Nothing on Friday. Friday is just sitting around, eating, drinking, do some posing. That's it.
As little as possible on Friday.
Yeah, I've known people with the diuretic thing start diuretics days out or weeks out, even like 10 days out, start taking diuretics. Like, why? You're still drinking water. Why? There's no reason to start that early. Diuretics work really fast. Most of them are going to work for a few hours, 6 hours or so. So, you don't want to throw all these factors in, because now you have to consider, okay, I'm water loading, but then I'm going to pull water. I have the diuretics pulling water. I need water for carbohydrates to move. Like, there's so many factors that you're throwing a wrench in. Cut sodium and now reintroduce sodium. Like, there's just a lot. And the more things you throw out there, the more variables there are, the more risk there is.
Yeah.
So I'd say if you're not experienced or don't have an experienced coach, don't do anything crazy. I would just keep everything normal. Back off on your workouts the last week. Increase carbs a little the last couple of days, and then just cut water back on Friday. A few ounces with each meal. After 4 or 5, 6 o'clock, something like that. Don't drink after you go to bed. You'll wake up in the morning and look good.
Yeah. So don't do anything crazy. Watch your body. Be careful.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, every coach is different. Some people think they know more about diuretics and can use them. Great. If your coach is confident in that and you're confident in your coach, listen to them. But just be careful. Like, anything extreme, there's you're running that 5% chance of looking better, 50% chance of looking worse. So you got to weigh those options. Is it worth it?
So last thing, what when you do competitions, what's your mentality like on the day of? You try to keep your mindset as...
Yeah, I'm usually pretty focused. I'm quiet. Think about my routine. I think about getting up there, what poses I'm going to do. Just basically focusing on my next meal.
Right.
Try to focus on not being thirsty, because usually it doesn't take long with the water. You go all night without drinking. You wake up pretty thirsty, especially by when you're taking in carbohydrates. So any fluids you do have are
gone.
They're going to that carb to move to the muscles.
Yeah.
I usually am pretty focused. I try not to be too social. I'll go backstage, lay down, put my feet up, and just kind of hang out and visualize being on stage, posing, and kicking everybody's ass.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Win.
Yeah. So we'll update you on how the show goes this weekend, and
we'll have a bonus video of some video, maybe some behind the scenes with TJ, definitely of him posing up there on the stage. So I guess
cool.
That's all
yeah.
we got.
You guys have any questions on peak week, on the water, the sodium, diuretics, carb loading, any of that? Feel free to ask them. But the basics is just keep it simple.
Yep.
All right. I think that's it for today. Don't forget rule number 1.
Bam.